howdy folks, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another unboxing video. And here's the box over here, and you can probably see as I spin this here, you can see there's some Russian writing on it. And the label here is from Russian Post. This comes obviously from the Russian Federation city of Petrozavodsk. I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Anyway, it comes from Russia. And this is from a manufacturer called SynthCone that is located over there. And let me tell you the quick story of how I discovered this. So if you've been a subscriber to my channel for a while, you probably remember when I made this. This is the Alien Screamer from Music from Outer Space. Now, Music from Outer Space was the brainchild of Ray Wilson, a engineer, genius, DIY guru. In fact, if you're into DIY synth and effects at all, you've probably heard of Ray Wilson. And he died suddenly in 2016. It was very sad for the community, of course. But luckily, a company called SynthCube took all of his designs and still sells them, so you can still buy all of his designs as DIY projects or finished projects. So I did this, several years ago, and I just love this thing. And I've always wanted to check out some of his other designs. So I went to look up another one of his designs called the Noise Toaster, and I was going to buy the kit to build the Noise Toaster. And then I found there are actually several manufacturers out there like SynthCone that sell their own version, typically for the same price as the kit, or in this case, actually a little bit less than the kit. So it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, I wanted to build something, but it's kind of a no-brainer that you can buy a completed one for less. So anyway, with no further ado, let's get this box open and see what is inside. So as I mentioned, this is their interpretation of the Noise Toaster circuit from Music from Outer Space. You can see, got some packing material. That seems to be our synth right there. There we go. Let's just make sure there's nothing else in here. Okay, here is our synth. And like I said, this is their version of the Noise Toaster circuit, but they call it the NoiseBox 2. So I'm gonna go ahead, get the, oh boy, that doesn't, there we go. Get the bubble wrap off. Wow, that is a thing of beauty, look at that. And we can see all the functions here, and I'm not sure how well this might show up on the screen, but up here is our VCO section. Below that we have our low-pass filter section. Down here we have our envelope generator, and then here we have our low-frequency oscillator section. VCA, main output here. On the back here we can see there is a 9-volt in, and this appears to be a standard tip negative, I hope, because there's no there is no power connector in the box. So hopefully this will work with a standard BOSS power supply. We've got an out on-off switch. We've got our main out. This is our audio in jack here, which would go to that one attenuator, and this is our CV in, which would go to the other attenuator. Also on the back here, it's got like some sort of a little design. Very neat, cool aesthetic. Let's plug this thing in. Okay, so here it is. Let's go ahead and power it on. We can see the LFO lights start flashing down here, and we hear that analog oscillator warming up. I can control the volume here, of course. Here we should hear it increase all the way up to inaudible range there. Dogs might hear that. And then back down all the way to inaudible on the other side too. So we've got a wide range here on the oscillator. And then you can see our modulators down here. So you can see the LFO and the blinking rate of the LFO. If I go ahead and turn up the LFO mod depth here on the oscillator, we should hear this start to modulate the pitch. There we go. And of course, the more we turn it up, the more modulation we're gonna get. But I'll turn it down just a little here. And then as we change this, we should hear that change. So very slow, all the way up to very fast. And of course, all of that is being processed through the filter. So if I change the filter cutoff here, we can hear that. Turn the resonance up on the filter. we also have some different wave shaping for the modulation oscillator here. So there's the smoothest shape. And then here's the hardest shape, if you will. And then kind of the inverse. We also have the envelope generator here, and it has a repeat mode or a manual gate mode. In the manual gate mode, you'll only get the envelope every time you hit this button. In the repeat mode, it will just constantly cycle, so it'll work almost more like the LFO. So let's take the LFO down, and let's bring the envelope up. So there we can hear it affecting the pitch. There we go. Now as I change these, we should hear, this should affect the upward. So now we have a really slow upward and a quick downward, or we can do the inverse. So a quick upward and a long downward. Or something else entirely. And of course, you can use both of them together. So we can do something like this. This kind of stuff is really... Then, right, all this, everything you've heard so far, we've been using the sawtooth wave here. We also have a square wave. So we get a little more digital type of sound that way. Oh, that's really cool, actually. Oh, there we go. And we also have a sync option here, which should make it subdivide this frequency based on the LFO frequency. So let's try that. And then we just have the LFO, or we can add it back. So it really does change, you know, kind of what you're hearing there. And then we also have the ability to add white noise right here. Now that white noise is pretty loud. I wish they had an attenuator on that, because that white noise is pretty loud. Probably have to pull the filter in. Yeah, there you go. But it does definitely add kind of a background tone there. So here, if we do a little tweak like that, we start to get kind of almost a rhythmic thing happening, because we've got the LFO modulating the filter while the envelope is modulating the oscillator. Now let's bring the LFO back up on the oscillator too, and add the sync. Now we really start to get some weird patterns going on. Very cool. Then, one thing we haven't messed with yet is we also have a VCA here, so we can have the envelope modulate the VCA, in which case it should add some rhythmic sort of feel. So let's see what that sounds like. Now another thing, if I go to manual now, we don't really hear anything until I push this button. And then when I let go. So kind of another cool thing you can do there. I'm gonna go back to bypass for a second, turn it down just a hair. And we also, over here to the side, I've got the Korg SQ1 over here. Okay, so I've brought in the SQ1 over here and I've plugged it into the CV in on the SynthCone here. So as I bring this attenuator up, we should hear the sequencer over here start to affect the pitch. There we go. So now the pitch is being driven by the sequencer. Now if I add the LFO back, we should get a little bit crazy stuff happening here. So now we have the pitch being driven by the sequencer and the LFO. And I can even add back the AR mod, so it'll be driven by the envelope, the LFO, and the sequencer combined. And now we really get crazy. So there you go. There are some of the noises you can make with the NoiseBox 2, but there's still one thing we haven't tried, and that's the external input. Let's try that now. Okay, so for one more demo here, I've taken my little tape player here, and I've got a tape loop loaded in there, and I've got it fed into the audio in on the NoiseBox 2. So it should be corresponding to this now. I'm gonna turn all that CV down for a second because there is no CV source. And of course you don't hear any noise right now because I've got the oscillator set to off. If I push it up, then we hear that, or down here, we hear the oscillator, but in the middle position, we don't hear anything. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off just to be sure. So we should, if I hit play here, we should hear, there we go. So we hear that loop coming through. So there's the volume of our loop. Okay, so I've got the loop coming in, and it's being processed through the filter. So if I turn the filter all the way open,
you clap your hands, you can dance around, or something like that.
And as I close it, we should hear it be affected. Okay, now of course if I add resonance, we should hear some of that filter growl. There we hear it. And then of course, if I add the LFO mod, so we can hear that, so kind of modulating that incoming loop. Now of course we can add in the internal oscillator. For whatever we're looking for, we can add the sync. We can of course add the modulation here, and we can add the AR mod. Now I bet this would really get weird if we added a delay or something. Okay, so there you have it, folks. That was the NoiseBox 2 from SynthCone, their adaptation of Ray Wilson's noise toaster circuit. Very cool. Love this. You can get this on their Etsy store. It's currently, at the time that I'm doing this, it's not available on their Etsy store, so they must have sold out of them. There's other synths on there, other Music Router Space designs and other things. If you're curious in that, you can check them out on Etsy, and I'll put that link in the description for you. Folks, if you like this video, why don't you go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you like this sort of content, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. I'll be back soon with another video.